tonics are just persistent throughout humankind. And it really has this capability to restore the physiologic functioning of an organ system and lead to a feeling of well-being. And so that's what I want to teach you today, is how to make something that's going to just make you have a feeling of well-being. And insofar as it is boosting the immune system, it contains things that are antiviral and antibacterial. But the basics for fire cider are an onion, garlic, horseradish, ginger, some kind of chili pepper. This is turmeric root. You do not have to put turmeric root into your fire cider, but I have a huge, I'm just like the biggest fan of turmeric, and for so many reasons, and it comes from my part of the world. And it's also just an incredible chemotherapeutic in the sense that it is a very strong anti-inflammatory. And like, look at how beautiful. That orange is just, it's just beautiful. And then I brought in some cinnamon. I didn't have cinnamon sticks today, so I'm just going to use some, this is actually some bulk organic cinnamon I put in this jar. And then the base, of course, is apple cider vinegar. Now, your apple cider vinegar has to be unpasteurized. It has to have the mother in it. If you get the Bragg's, it'll actually say, with the mother. But what does that mean? It means you should see this kind of sediment, on the bottom of the jar. This is the active bacterial colony. This is found in kombucha, also so many other fermented products. But you really need to have that for your fire cider to macerate properly. And this is a jar of fire cider that I'm working on. It's been about 3.5 weeks. I'm going to give it another week longer. I shake it every day, but basically it has most of the ingredients that we are going to cut up here today, and they've all just been macerating and, sort of coming apart, dissolving, infusing into the cider. And then I'm going to strain this and add some honey to it for sweetness. And have a little medicine bottle. So let's go ahead and start. Oh, and I found some rosemary that was still going in my garden, so I brought that out too. I thought rosemary is really wonderful for coughs, and we'll make some cough syrup next time too. So I wanted to bring that in. So what do you do here? It's basically just chopping and grating. Now, I wanted to mention the horseradish. Are you guys familiar with horseradish? This is, I'll tell you humbly that my introduction to horseradish was being a child of the 70s, Arby's. Anybody remember that horsey sauce from Arby's? It makes me laugh just thinking about it. That stuff was just, I always put too much on my Arby's. This was before I was a vegetarian, and it would just like shoot up my nose. I'd be like crying. My brother would be laughing. My nose would be running. I just like never learned, but I loved it. Like I loved the hit from it. And as painful as it was, right? And so horseradish, so I was lucky to get some fresh horseradish today at the store. But I have used, even though this is a little bit of a cheat with fire cider, most herbalists don't like to use prepared horseradish. But this one in particular, I did find at the store some time ago, and the only ingredients were horseradish, vinegar, salt, and mustard oil. You definitely don't want to be using any prepared horseradish that has other, herbs in it or some other kind of spices or another type of horseradish mixture, because that you just don't know what you're putting into your fire cider when you start using these prepared products. So I always prefer to use fresh when you can, and when I didn't have it, I use this, but again, not preferred. So horseradish, just like any other kind of root, you want to wash it, you want to dry it, because it's very, very important when you make herbal medicine that you're not using wet items, okay? That you're not using wet herbs or wet roots, because that water can come out from your ingredient and go into your fire cider and actually create a bacterial growth, okay? And we really don't want that to happen. So this was already washed and blotted dry. Same with the rosemary. I washed it and I blotted it dry before I set this up. This is one of my favorite tools in the herbal medicine kitchen. It's a zester, actually. But I just don't like using my big old grater as much. I've gotten kind of in the habit of just using this guy. So it's just a little bit easier. I teach a lot of classes at, well, I used to teach a lot of classes in person before this plague. And so I needed to have tools that I could just easily like transport. So I kind of got in the habit of using this as my grater. And now I sort of love it. So this is about a 1/4 cup of horseradish that I'm grating here. And let me tell you, like, this is so powerful. Like, my sinuses are already clearing out just from doing this. It is such powerful stuff. If you're not familiar with horseradish, like, this is some powerful medicine. And I'm going to just take my clean jar. Now, where can I put this where you guys can see it? Over here. I take my clean jar, and I'm going to put in my horseradish. Start with that. All right. Next up is going to be my ginger. And we'll do about a 1/4 cup of that. I usually keep it even between the horseradish and the ginger. And this is going to take me forever, so I'm not going to do a 1/4 cup of grating of ginger right now. But just to give you the general idea, we will kind of get that going. As you know, the ginger has a lot more, it's a more hydrated root than the horseradish, so it just takes a lot longer to get that grating going. You can, again, I mean, I'm not a big fan of using the pre-grated stuff because when you're making herbal medicines, because they tend to be preserved in something that you don't want to put in your fire cider. All right. Then you've got your turmeric. Now, again, turmeric, you're not going to put quite as much in as you would. I mean, you can, to be honest. There's no magic to this. I don't want you guys to think, oh, she put in a 1/4 cup of this and a 1/4 cup of that. I'm going to do that exact same thing. You can alter this to create your own medicine. But the most important pieces are to make sure that horseradish is the plant that really takes front and center, and that anything you add beyond that, you know, is sort of like the side partner. So look at how beautiful that turmeric is, just so beautiful. So I'm going to put some turmeric in there. I'll probably add a little bit more of that later on as well. So we've got our ginger, our turmeric, our horseradish that we've put in, and then we need to add some onion and garlic. I'm so fortunate that my kids worked at the farmer's market this summer, and which was like the only jobs that teenagers could get. You know, it was like really hard to find any summer jobs, and both of them got jobs at the farmer's market here in Evanston, and so I am really stocked up on some beautiful garlic from them. So when it comes to your garlic, again, you want to just be really liberal with this. You can use any kind of garlic, truly. Any kind of garlic. But this doesn't have to be chopped like you would if you were sauteing it, okay? You want to just kind of get some big chunks of it in there. I'll probably put in that entire flour, actually. Just wanted to do a little bit for you in front of you right now. I love it to see too. I would love to hear from you guys if you have particular ways that you like to, particular types of these vegetables that you like to use, types of roots that you like to use if you've made fire cider before. So nice to rough cut stuff too, isn't it? And of course your onion. Now, I've grown up mostly with using yellow onions, but you can certainly put a red onion in here or a white onion too if you want. I just have a predilection to yellow onions. I'm going to peel this guy. I like to keep my peel as a handle. This is a little messier on my dining table than in my kitchen, but that's the way it's going to be. I feel inspired by Venus, who showed us the realities of being an herbalist in her workshop series. This is the realities of making fire cider on your dining table. All right, so lots of big onion pieces, because you can imagine these are like all coming together in this vinegar. And so the allium, the really powerful antioxidant allium from the garlic and the onion is all starting to release. That is why I'm crying right now, because all the allium is starting to release up into the air, and that's the strong antioxidant work. That's the antibacterial. That's the antiviral. That's what's going in there. That's how this is boosting your immune system. And I'm going to just rough cut this chili pepper. Or add the rosemary. And I'm also going to put in just a little sprinkle of this fresh cinnamon. Just a sprinkle of it. And now I'm just going to cover up all of my beautiful roots, beautiful medicines with this ACV. And last but not least, when I put the lid on, I want to make sure I use a little bit of parchment paper so that, because when the vinegar touches the metal of the lid, it starts to rust it. And we don't really want to bring that into our medicine. So I'm just going to use this parchment paper to protect the medicine from the lid. And then I'm going to let this sit for about 4 weeks in a quiet, dark place in my kitchen. I usually keep it in on the corner of the counter. And every day, just give it a shake so everything is getting some maceration, a little bit more help with the maceration. The vinegar is going to do a whole ton of it by itself, but mixing it every day, a lot of the herbs and plants are settling at the bottom. We'll just kind of help it all, make sure it's getting infused. And then we are going to strain it. Let me show you what I strain with. Now you could just strain with a piece of cheesecloth or a piece of muslin, add some raw local honey to taste so that it is palatable enough to be able to take a small amount, because it will really invigorate, and I mean it just clears out the sinuses, it gives a sense of great energy going in, mostly because it's just firing everything up. So you need to take it really easy with it, and the honey is what I think really helps give it a softer, gentler feel.